Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Naruto Chunin Exam Arc, episode 26, Special Report Live from the Forest of Death. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in this episode, and this is going to be very brief. So, essentially, all that happens in this episode is Konohamaru and Moegi and Udon all arrive at the Forest of Death, where Konohamaru and them once again pretend to be a rock, which is square and moves and has eye holes and is obviously not a rock, which Naruto calls out. Then Konohamaru reveals that he works for the class newspaper and he's there to interview Naruto for said class newspaper. That's when the proctor comes over and realizes she forgot that she was actually informed about this interview, so she allows it to go ahead. That's when Naruto starts to tell things of his past, and we see a lot of flashbacks of him doing missions and introducing himself to Team 7 and his event with Iruka. Then we see him talking about, the failures of Sasuke, where Sasuke was defeated by Kakashi in the Bell test, the genjutsu that Sakura saw of him covered in wounds, him being covered in wounds due to Haku, and when Naruto was able to get the jump on him and tie him up. Then Sakura and Sasuke basically decide that Naruto's lying or not telling the full truth, so Sakura then basically explains her side of things. We flash back to more missions. She sings Sasuke's praises. Then Sasuke gives a brief rundown of some of his past, which just basically shows him with jutsus. We then see Kakashi doing some of his jutsus in battles against Zabuza. But essentially, we just get a bit of a recap through flashbacks and these interviews of everything that's happened in the prologue Land of Waves arc. So that basically is it. And that now brings us to our rankings, where we first have our mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. And we start with our only positive, which was the multi-arc supporting character development. Konohamaru, and lumped in there as his friends, are part of the class newspaper. That's something new that we've learned. Plus 3 points. And then it is ultimately just a recap episode. There's that little bit of comedy at the start, but essentially the entire thing is a bunch of flashbacks with voiceovers of this interview between Konohamaru and then Naruto, Sakura, followed by Sasuke at the end. And that's minus 1 point, which leaves us with a 2 out of 10. That now brings our mostly objective ranking to, in first, identify yourself, powerful new rivals. The 10th question, All or Nothing, a new chapter begins, the Chunin Exam, Chunin Challenge, Rock Lee versus Sasuke, Genin Takedown, all 9 rookies face off, Start Your Engines, the Chunin Exam begins, and then this episode is in 7th, Special Report Live from the Forest of Death. And then my personal ranking for this episode. I also gave it a 2. I agreed with the mostly objective ranking. I did find the little thing with the rock funny, but it's also a bit that they've done before. And then it's ultimately just, treading ground we've already been through. And while it's better than some recaps, because some anime, they have like 12 episodes in a season and they decide to do a recap episode halfway through that when you've only seen like 6 or 7 episodes and you're like, okay, I haven't forgotten what happened yet. This, at least, we've been through an entire arc and they're just recapping that previous arc as we're getting into this next one. So that doesn't bother me that much, but there were a couple of things, like, for example, Sakura obviously has a crush on Sasuke. But she calls his cold behavior attractive. And as I was listening to that, I was like, who thinks their partner being cold, which is essentially neglectful, is an attractive quality in anybody? I cannot fathom it. And I obviously completely disagree. And that's probably why I've never understood the hype around Sasuke, because he is ultimately a bit of an a-hole, and I don't think that a-holes are attractive. And it just goes to show the cultural differences between East and West, because who would want to be with somebody who is cold to them, who doesn't appear to like them at all, who doesn't communicate with them, who's, I'd rather be with my best friend, essentially, is like the Western, mentality is a good relationship is like marry your best friend or someone who's like your best friend. And then Western is cold behavior. That's what's attractive. And I can't fathom it, but obviously I completely disagree. She also has a line of how, their team has the greatest teamwork because it's forged by an unbreakable bond. And I just think that, what is it, like the next arc after this one doesn't age well because literally Sasuke decides to just up and abandon them because, cold behavior is just another way of saying does not care, not invested. Um, so yeah, that doesn't age well. I found that gave me a bit of a chuckle. And then my wish for this episode is they have Konohamaru coming there and he's doing a bunch of interviews, but he only interviews Team 7, and then we see flashbacks to what we've just watched. I would have liked maybe if like the first half was that, but maybe in the second half, because we've been introduced to so many new characters that we hadn't seen before, that are new in this arc, and there's so many, or that we haven't seen in detail, that the second half could have been, shorter interviews maybe with some of the newer characters. Like the only newer character that we saw, even like the other teams for Konoha has not were not shown. Like we didn't see any of the other like um Team 10 or Team 8 or Guy's team or anything like that, really, except as it relates to Sasuke. And the only other village team that we saw anything about was Gaara, and only Gaara asking Sasuke's name, as he did when they first met, to show how impressive Sasuke was, that people wanted to know his name. And even Team Guy, same thing. The only way, like the only flashback they appeared in was when Lee and Neji wanted to know Sasuke's name to show how desirable he is. Um, so I would have liked, because we're introduced to so many characters and it can be a little bit overwhelming, if they'd taken some time to maybe have Konohamaru interview some of the other participants in the exam beyond Team 7, to even just give like a fun fact or snippet about those characters to, I don't know, make them a bit more memorable. But that's just something I wish that they did and I would have appreciated. But ultimately, like I said, it's flashbacks, things we've already seen. Even the bit that, like the comedy bit at the start, was something we've already seen. So 2 out of 10 felt fair, and that brings my personal ranking to in first, Chunin Challenge Rock Lee vs. Sasuke. A new chapter begins, the Chunin exam. Identify yourself, powerful new rivals. Genin takedown, all 9 rookies face off. The 10th question, all or nothing. Start your engines, the Chunin exam begins, and then in 7th and last place is Special Report, live from the Forest of Death. And now our series ranking so far. On the Chunin exam arc, it is now at 51 out of 480, and on the personal side, 42 out of 480. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Naruto Chunin exam arc, episode 26, Special Report, live from the Forest of Death. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.